The next question is, Scott, what is your advice from picking a niche from scratch? And if you had to start again, what would you do? So if I had to start again, okay. So if I had to choose my niche from scratch, what would I do? And what's the best advice? Good question. So if I had to start again, if I had to pick my niche again, I would do the same thing and follow the same steps. If I was changing the niche, starting the niche from scratch, changing industries, doing everything. And that would be to do it logically. Okay, so what do I mean by logically? So I'll see a lot of people picking their niche and making big decisions in their business based on their emotions. And you shouldn't do that. And niche is critical because that's where it all really starts. That's where we understand what our clients want, who our clients are, where they are, the economics, everything stems from the niche, the marketing, the sales, all the way down the line. But we as human beings, therapists and coaches alike, and at one stage I was like that as well, very emotional. And we make a lot of bad decisions based on our emotions. So a lot of people will tell you to pick a niche where your passion is. And while I agree, actually, I don't agree with that at all. I was going to say, while I agree with that to a certain extent, I'll explain what I mean by why I don't agree with that at all. Passion has nothing to do with it. Now, yes, you do have to enjoy the niche. You do have to enjoy working with that type of person. You do have to want to talk about that subject all the time, but you do not want to let your passion blind you. I'm sure you've seen all the ads where people say like, just find your passion and, turn passion into profits. Let's say I have a passion of going to a coffee shop, which I like, and I like to just sit there, decompress, drink a coffee, chill out, not think about anything. I usually do that on a Sunday. That's a passion of mine. I enjoy this, and I'll go out of my way to do this because I get a payoff from it. But just because I enjoy it doesn't mean the niche is going to be profitable. Okay. So the same rules apply. And it's a bit of a weird metaphor, but it really rings true, is the same rules apply with your niche. Just because you're passionate about it, just because maybe you've been through that journey yourself, you've come out the other side, just because you're obsessed with that subject doesn't mean that everybody else in the world is or should be. I cannot tell you how many times I speak to people that I've met 5 years ago, 8 years ago, 10 years ago at certifications and events and online, and they've talked to me. And they've talked to me following their passion, their certain type of subject or niche in the industry that wasn't working then. Then I catch up with them 5 years later and they're still trying to push this thing. Like they're still trying to make this niche work. They're still trying to push this passion. But the only thing that's different is now they're working a full-time job to support a passion project. So if your goal is to make money, if your goal actually is to not make money and just follow your passion, you sort of forget what I'm saying. But obviously you're here to grow a business. You don't want to get clients. So you've got to be very careful with passion because it does blind us. You've got to do this logically. So like I said, if I was starting again or picking a niche from scratch, I'd go into it logically. I'd look at the data. I'd look at the clusters of people. I'd look at what's hot in the industry right now. I'd try and look at a niche where there's maybe minimal competition. I'd try and look at the marketing that everybody's doing, seeing what's working, seeing what's failing. And most of all, I'd go speaking to a lot of potential people. I'd summarize maybe, let's say, 3 types of niches that I was interested in, like, let's say, stop smoking, relationship issues, and let's say, I don't know, fear of driving or something like that. And I'd go speak to people. I'd go to Facebook groups. I'd go online and I'd go speak to those people and find out, is this pain big enough? Like, is there enough pain that's going to support my prices? Is there enough people that this pain is linked to? So I've got enough clients to work with. And I'd ask them every single question I could to really understand this niche before I'd do that. Before I'd even think about, is this something that I want to work with for the rest of my life? So let's say I did that 3 times with 3 different niches and I all had like the equal amount of passion for all of those 3, like they were just good enough. Then I'd look at them and go, okay, out of speaking to those people, what was it like? What were they like? Could I handle talking to those people in my career? Could I handle creating content about that? Then let's say out of 3 or 5 niches that I did this for, I just categorize them. Which one actually turned out to be the most interesting? Which one would I like to research more? Which one has more information online that I can actually find out more info about the problem itself? And then I'd weigh up my passion to that. Now, if I did all 5, and then I found out, wow, those people were really boring, I can't imagine talking about that stuff for the rest of my career, I'd just repeat it. And I'd do this within a couple of weeks. And I just work hard at this, harder at this than everybody else. So while everyone's trying to find their passion, which I get has some part of the rest of your career, I wouldn't be blinded by it. I'd only look at what I really enjoyed in the passion after the fact. Now, also, I wouldn't necessarily pick a niche that I hated just because there was money in it. So you've got to weigh that up. There's a perfect optimized point there where I've got to enjoy it enough, but I don't want to get lost in the passion of it because I might not look at the data properly. But I wouldn't choose a niche that I didn't enjoy because I have to make content like this. And if each day I had to make content like this and I kept thinking, fuck, what am I going to talk about? This is really boring. I can't imagine. I don't want to do another video. Do I really want to do this? That's already telling me this is not going to be a long-term project. So you do have to do some investigation. You have to weigh up your, you got to weigh up your thoughts around this. But my big point here is don't get blinded by your passion. Just because you enjoy it, just because you've been through it, just because you know somebody who's been through it doesn't mean it has any relation to other people in the world. So you got to be very careful of that. And I think that's the biggest block most new people in business, therapists and coaches struggle with, because they're obsessed with the passion idea. Okay, because sure, that's what the gurus will tell us. But in reality, it doesn't work like that. So that's what I'd do with that fact. If I was starting again, I'd follow that same thing. Logic first and then emotion. If I was changing the niche, logic, then emotion. I teach all of my students that from the start to look at the logic of everything first and then the emotion. Because if you go into this too emotional, you'll make all the wrong decisions. And in a couple of months' time, you've either not made any progress or you're going to be so many fathoms behind where you should be. It's going to be extremely hard to catch up. So that's what I do.